Welcome to the Tokumba Chronicles, a podcast about the journeys we take and the stories we make. In this podcast, I'll be sharing moving stories that are sure to empower, educate, and entertain you. Stories have an incredible way of connecting us to one another, uplifting us, and giving us permission to tell our own story. I will be speaking to entrepreneurs, trailblazers, and dreamers who have incredible and powerful stories to share. From their triumphs and tribulations, we'll be drawing out the details, the how-tos, and the lessons we can take away. Life is what you make it, and only you get to decide how your story is written. I hope by sharing these stories with you, you will live inspired and equipped to live yours out unapologetically. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the chronicles. I am your host and chief storyteller, Tokumba Kweki, a multi-passionate entrepreneur, founder of the award-winning Tokumba's Kitchen and London African Food Week. When I'm not cooking up a storm in the kitchen or regaling guests with my own epic stories, you are most likely to find me in the middle of the dance floor, bringing the party to life. In this episode of a two-part series of my conversation with Alex Pemberton, we're going to be discussing how Alex made a decision at the age of 11 to become an entrepreneur, the different routes that he has taken that's enabled him to fulfill that goal, and also Alex's crazy business idea of solving problems for others, including an ingenious idea of supplying Venezuelan with condoms. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the chronicles. Hi everyone, welcome to the Tokumba Chronicles. I am Tokumba, and yes, so on the sofa with me today, I have my, what would I say Alex is? My dear friend, Alex Pemberton. Alex, do you want to give a little introduction about yourself?
Yes, I am Alexander. Told you I was going to do my radio voice. So what do? I've done a lot of things, but at the moment I help people to start businesses, and I do a lot of creative activity around visuals, like video production, web design, branding, and yeah, I'm also a father.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons I really wanted Alex to be on the show, and he's going to get so gassed when I tell him this. When I met you, that was in May, and you were introduced to me by another friend of ours, Ada. And what she said to me was, you're a videographer. So at the time when I met you, I was working on the London African Food Week, and you came on board and you...
Co-founder,
not. Anyway, this is what we do, by the way. So just ignore us at the moment. We are going to get to like real stuff in a minute. But basically, what really kind of impressed me was at the time, the food week, I think we met maybe 2-3 weeks before the food week.
Mm-hmm.
And when I kind of shared the vision with you of what I was intending on doing, you came on board completely, totally, and you gave up so much of your time and effort and energy to kind of like help create the first London African Food Week. And that just kind of really impressed me. And I was just curious to know, like, because I remember, you telling me you had 2 young daughters and a wife, but then you would stay to like really late, come back first thing the next morning. And as a mom myself, I remember thinking, I'm taking you away from your family. But that dedication that you showed, especially because I wasn't paying you, just really kind of impressed me and made me want to know a little bit more about you. So can you tell me, like, what is it that makes Alex, like, what is it that made you decide to be a part of something that you didn't know who it was that was creating this? And, as somebody who's from the Caribbean yourself, why did you feel it was important for you to be part of the London African Food Week?
Yeah. So firstly, obviously you're not easily impressed. I had to be like away from my family.
You didn't know that at the time.
No, I didn't.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I think when Ida told me about what you're doing, I was like, this sounds interesting. But a few years ago, I decided that I'm only going to work with people that are doing interesting things and things that I could have an impact on. And that means I end up helping a lot of people start businesses and doing a lot of stuff around startups, starting new projects and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. I honestly don't know what it was. I really don't know what it was. I saw something.
Obviously, it was me.
I saw something and we kind of gelled quite earlier on. I felt like I had met like you and the rest of the team before. And I'm quite spiritual. So whenever that happens, I just go with the flow and see what happens. I knew I wasn't going to be getting paid, but I know that when you give your time and your expertise and your skills to help something that's already amazing, like even better, it will come back in like so many ways. And it's already have, like even before the end of the food week, it had. So, and don't get me wrong, I've worked with people before, and it's been a case where they've approached me and they've said, hey, can you do this? I'll introduce you to X, Y, and Z and all this kind of people. And that hasn't happened. So nowadays, like I approach so that if I see there's value in it,
Yeah.
then I'll stick around.
Okay. So then, since I've been getting to know you, one of the things that's really struck me about you is you are very much about, you're very community driven, and you are very much a entrepreneur in every sense of the way. And I guess I just wanted to know from you, when did you make that decision? When did you decide, actually, this is what I want to do? I want to be an entrepreneur, and I want to be involved in interesting projects and helping people start up their own businesses and getting more and more people to think about becoming entrepreneurs.
Wow. A long time ago. And I don't want to be one of these people, oh yeah, since I was a child.
Why not?
But
That's your story.
I
That's
know,
your story.
but it just sounds cliche, innit? But one of these things is, it was since I was a child. I didn't do the lemon stand and all that kind of stuff, but I had lots of ideas. And I would think one day, I knew one day in grade 6, it's in the Caribbean, that's year 6 here, that one day I would have my own business and I'd be signing checks. So at the time, the teachers were like, do your signature, like do it over and over again. You're going to get your signature really good, that kind of stuff. And I said to my friend, I think his name was Dominic or Phil, maybe both of them. And
Dominic or Phil.
Yeah. I said to either one of them. It's like such a difference. But I said one day I'm going to be signing checks and paying people. So I need to get this right. It needs to look good. So fast forward so many years, I've been one of those people that anything that I want, I think that I could be good at, I'll try it. And when the opportunity comes, it's just like, actually, yeah, let me get in and let me try that. So, but when I knew I wanted to be a full-time entrepreneur was 2013. I took a trip to the beautiful Gambia, West Africa. And when I came back, I was just like, do you know what? There's something about me not working for someone else ever again that's really appealing. So I was working at a market research company between 2010 2012, doing lots of stuff with them, like video photography. I redesigned the website and branding, or maybe graphics. And that was great. And there was some redundancies. And I was just like, do you know what? I'm going to take voluntary redundancy. I thought that I was going to get paid a lot of money. Like, I was so naive. It was just like, I'd been there 2 years.
Sorry, Alex, I had to do it. It was too easy. You make it so easy, Alex. You remained the two voluntary redundant and you were still broke.
Like, no, I was still broke. Still, it was like £2,000. I wasn't even getting paid that much money anyway. But with that, I got a camera and I got some other stuff that I needed. And 6 months in, someone that I worked with, who's a project manager, says, I'm at another company, competing company. Do you want to come and work there? While I was there, they were picking my brain about what this other company did. So I have to say, I don't have to say the names. I don't mind saying the names. Kantar Operations was the first one, owned by Sir Martin Sorrell, who I looked up to in some ways when I discovered how many companies he's got and the type of entrepreneur he is. Okay. And the other one was called Ipsos Mori. So they do the Mori polls. So when you know the polling stations,
yes.
Yeah, they do all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
First one, senior management, mainly women. This place was organized.
Wow. Obviously.
Listen, the other place, oh my goodness, chaos. And I don't care because I don't work there and decide anything. But it was so chaotic. But their brand was better.
Okay.
And they were a little bit more outgoing visually and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so working at this first company, I really learned what sustains a business. And it's really, okay, apart from cash flow, it's systems. So when I left, I was like, okay, do you know what? I need to have systems in place. When I went to Ipsos Mori, though, they were picking my brain about what I did at Kantar. So we created this kind of technical Bible for the technical team, so that if anyone got hit by a bus or whatever,
Somebody else could step in.
yeah, step in where they left off. So I helped to create that document. And while I was at this other company, they were picking my brains about this new technology they're doing and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if this is legal or not. Again, don't care. Because I've left the industry and I've said their names, it's too late.
Oh, Alex, wow.
So anyway, they were picking my brains, and the head of tech, the head of IT for the company in the UK, we met at least 5 or 6 times. And I'm like, what is it about me that I have that he wants to talk to? Because it's more than about what the company was doing. We went on to talking about what I think the department should do. And some of the ideas that I was giving, like they were implementing.
How old was you at that time, Alex?
How old was I? 28 or 9? Or maybe younger. This is what, 2000 and... I'm not good at maths, you know. Why why...
You just like literally told it. You just baited yourself out.
You were like, how old were you?
No, I was like, it just sounds so impressive because you talked about obviously having gone to Gambia and you're talking about I'm just trying to figure out where in your career you was at that stage.
Okay.
And like you said, for somebody at that senior level to essentially be picking your brain, you know, you must have been an impressive young man.
Yes. And I didn't know it. I didn't realize it. But it was something about going to Gambia and being away from the corporate world for a little bit and seeing the world a little bit differently than I previously did that made me think, do you know what? When I get back, I'm going to ask for a raise. And I asked for something ridiculous, like a 20% raise or something. It was crazy. And I remember sitting with my manager and he was like, you know, you've been here 6 months. We want to get you on a permanent contract. I'm like, yeah, great. I like you guys. I'm happy to be around and all that kind of stuff. And I would like a raise though, if I'm going to stay on, because, you know, I'm giving you lots of value. He's like, oh, you'll have to speak to my manager about that. So I sat down with the manager, had all this confidence. Because what happened is this, and you didn't tell me to tell you my life story, but here it goes. What happened is I had a gig, I'm going to call it, to do some video production for Fortune 500 company, or was it 100? I don't know. Called Pearson. They used to own Financial Times and Penguin Books.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, they're going to pay me a substantial amount of money. It was like, I don't know, 4 times my salary or something. So I was like, okay, if I get that and these guys give me a raise, I'll just take 2 weeks off and I'm winning. I had already decided that I'm not going to stay. So I went into this meeting with my manager's manager with all this confidence. And I was just like, this is what I want, 20%. And he said to me, we can't give you that raise because there are people that's been working here longer than you and they're getting paid less than you are. And I said, that's not my problem. That's on them. If they're happy with that, then that's for them to decide. But I know what I'm going to bring to the table. I also know what I've brought so far. And he was like, no. And I'm like, well, that's cool. It was from that day, that was 2013. And I was like, do you know what? I'm not working for anyone again. I need to choose my clients. And I was stressed there as well. There was so much like stuff going on. And the job wasn't even that hard. I don't know what it was about the company, but there was a lot going on. And I thought, do you know what? The energy that I've put into this, and I'm not really getting much back financially, and I'm tired, and I have to travel far, and I don't really want to do it. I just thought, you know, I have to do stuff that I want to do. And I want to work with people that I like and people that I want to see do well as well.
Okay, wow. That has been quite a revelation for me. And I'm just kind of getting to know a little bit more about you. Take me back to your childhood. I'm so interested in this young Alexander who was practicing his signature when he was in year 6 because he knew that one day he was going to have his own business and you were going to be paying checks. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. Where did you grow up? What kind of child was you like?
See, when I talk to you and you say stuff like that, I'm like, this is therapy now. Tell me about your childhood. Yes. I love it. My childhood, I don't know. What do you want to know?
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Caribbean, a beautiful island called Nevis, a country called St. Kitts and Nevis, and I'm from Nevis. We have an amazing natural hot spring there, and it's healing. So if you have any issues, go there and you'll be sorted out.
So you grew up on this beautiful island in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was amazing. It was great. Looking back now, there's so much freedom. I could walk to school by myself without being worried about getting kidnapped or all the kind of issues you get in this country and many other countries around the world. The teachers in my school were strict, but they were like your uncles and aunties. So they really cared about you.
Small island?
Tiny.
So everyone kind of knew each other.
Yeah, we're all related.
That doesn't
We all look the same.
that does not sound promising, Alex.
Oh, we're all cousins.
Getting even worse. Like, okay, moving on.
I mean, okay, I'm not going to say anything else. I mean, the royal family are all related, so
you're really selling this island, aren't you?
Okay, so we're not really all related, obviously. But yeah, so everyone knows each other. They know your name. If you kind of say, what's your surname? They'll say, oh, what part of the island you're from? And someone's going to know your auntie, uncle, grandmother. So yeah, it was really, really nice community to be a part of. What else can I say?
Okay, what was your family like? Did you have any sisters, siblings growing up?
Yes,
what were you like in school?
I was. What was I like in school? I've got one older brother and no younger brothers or sisters. I've always wanted a sister, so I'm always begging sisters. Everywhere I go, I'm like, will you be my sister? Not really. But I'm always, what was it like? So my parents, my dad's a pastor of a Pentecostal church. My mother was a teacher. She worked in offshore, and then she worked for Four Seasons. I don't know what she did at Four Seasons, I don't remember. But yeah, so it was good. It was good. Had lots of nice friends and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so there was another part of that question.
Before we go back to that second part of the question, you said you went the kind of young person who had a lemonade stand. Obviously, I don't think lemonade stand is something that happens in the Caribbean anyways, is it?
I don't know if
I think
anyone
that's very
did
much
that.
an American thing, to be honest. But yet, at some point, at that young age, you still knew that you wanted to own your own business, but you didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs. So where do you think you got that thing from? Where did you get that drive that made you decide?
Well, I did actually. I did. Okay. So the men that I look up to, my dad's brothers and my mother's brothers, they all work for themselves.
Okay. So you had role models of what an entrepreneur was.
But I didn't realize it at the time, to be honest. So my uncle Taylor, my other uncle Baker, amazing baker, married to an amazing cake maker. Is that what you call them? Baker, sure, yeah. My other uncle, musician. Okay. One's a lawyer. One's was into real estate. So my uncle and my dad had a restaurant called Socios, which means partners in Spanish. They thought it was like lovers kind of partners, but it actually means business partners. So I've named my company after what they call their restaurant. So yes,
the family.
Yeah, and my mum's eldest brother, he was a photographer, and he actually gave my dad's brother his first camera. And my mum and my dad weren't married yet, so this photography thing has been in the family as well. I didn't know it.
Wow. Okay, so getting to see a little bit of where the different things that make up Alex are coming from. So you obviously had a lot of positive role models of what it means to be an entrepreneur. So it kind of makes sense why, even though you went selling things as a child, you still envision a life where you were going to be in control of your own destiny. Yeah. So what does being an entrepreneur mean for you?
For me, it's all about freedom.
Yes. See, everyone says that, but freedom can mean so many different things. So specify a little bit more about what is that freedom?
To be able to do what I want when I want. So when I decided to be an entrepreneur in 2012, I could just do that. I could do whatever I want, whenever I wanted. Just couldn't afford it. In the first year, it was just like, okay, I can go travel anywhere. I got the time to do it.
Okay, see, one of the things that I feel like one of the reasons why I really wanted to create this show was to kind of talk to people about what it means to be an entrepreneur, and speaking to lots of different kinds of entrepreneurs as well. And the key thing that you said there, yes, being an entrepreneur means you get the freedom. You get the freedom to do what you want when you want, but you don't have income. I mean, most entrepreneurs in their first year, unless you have a kind of business model where you're getting paid before you've offered your service or product, you're literally chasing for clients and things. So can you talk us about what that first year was like for you when you went into that business meeting, or like, yeah, I'm going to leave you guys, even though you're giving me okay. Actually, before that, what would you have done if they did give you that 20% raise? Would you have stayed, or would you still have left?
I would have stayed, but only for a little bit, maybe another 2 or 3 months.
Okay. So at the point where you left, what was that journey like for you in the first year? What was the business that you decided to launch? What was the service? How did you go about getting clients? And just kind of, how did you develop your business? How did you start your business, basically?
So in 2012, when I left the first market research company, coming on to the end, I read a lot of articles on entrepreneur.com and Inc. and Business Insider and all that kind of stuff. And I realized that there was this rising trend of people starting businesses. And I said, do you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I did a SWOT analysis on myself, and I encourage everyone to do that.
What is a SWOT analysis for those who don't know?
Yeah, so I don't know. Doing strengths. What are your strengths? Yeah. Your weaknesses. What are you not good at? Your opportunities. What opportunities are before you? Recognizing those is so important. And the threats, like what's threatening you. It could be where you live, and it could be something that you do. So I did one of those on myself, and
impressive.
Yeah, I know, right?
Can be nice for you for more than 2 seconds, Alex.
You can. You should try.
I should.
It's very rewarding.
I don't want to. So you did a SWOT analysis on yourself.
So I was like, what are the skills that I have? And if I was to start a business with these skills, who can I offer those to? So I was good at video production. I had been doing video since I was 16, like weddings and church conferences and that kind of stuff. I had been doing photography just for a little bit of time, but I had a background in web design, studied computer science. So the web design thing was an easy sell. Hey, I've got a computer science degree. I can make websites, even though I probably wasn't that good. Actually, no, I was all right. I was okay. I got better. But, and the branding thing, I had a friend who was an amazing graphic designer. And I said, hey, we should do some stuff together. I'll do the website. I'll do this other stuff. So we'll put all of those in a box and offer it to people who want to start businesses, because actually that's what they need. He was like, yeah, cool, let's do it. So I called that Socios Media, and that's partnership. And it took me so long to come up with the name. But in that 6 months, from January 2013 to August, that's not 6, that's 8 months. When did I start this job?
You did say you weren't good at math, so we'll let that one go.
Maybe it was more than 6 months. Anyway, when I started, I should be able to know the months of the year though. So when I started this job, it must have been August or September, somewhere around there. I had done I had done the typical stuff like do a business plan. It was a complete waste of my time because I didn't really want to do it. I shouldn't say I wish, but I did wish at the time that I knew someone who could guide me a little bit better. But everyone was saying, get a business plan. And that's what you were hearing. Now I've realized that what you need to do when you start your business, depending on what it is you want to get a first client or first 3. You want someone to say, actually, you're good, or here's what you can do better. Yeah. And then you go out and you find 2 more, and then you get some more. So I spent maybe a month or 2 on a business plan, because why am I doing a business plan? Then I realized that I wasn't going to show it to anyone. So it was like, what's the point of me doing this if no one's going to see it? And I had no intention of going to the bank for a loan or anything. I had already got my camera. I had everything I needed. So am I even answering your question?
What was the journey like for you in the first year?
Yeah, so the first year...
Did a business plan for 2 months. You realized you didn't actually need a business plan.
Yeah.
Then you
didn't have any clients, but I was doing some video stuff. Okay. But the most important thing I did was to offer my service to someone who needed it for free. Yeah. And there was this lady from my church, and I said, hey, Auntie Dawn, let me do your website. You need a website. I'll do your website for you. And she goes, I'm doing a transition, so I don't really have any money at the moment. I'm like, that's fine. Just pay me when you can. I didn't think she would ever pay me, to be honest. So I did her website. And from that first website, I was able to get someone else to pay me to do websites, because they're like, what have you done? Yeah, I've done her website. She paid me like months, almost maybe a year later, and I had done some other stuff with her as well for photography. And a lot of this free stuff that I did, it wasn't really that free because I got paid later.
Okay.
But when she paid me, it came at a really good time when I needed it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, half of it was in my overdraft, so the other half was which is like, oh my gosh. But yeah, so that journey, that startup journey was like me trying to figure out how I'm gonna speak to people, all that kind of stuff, how I'm gonna get them to believe I can do it. And part of that was just evidence that I've done it before. So doing a lot of websites in 2013. So doing the video, I did a lot of video. People know me as a videographer. Some people knew me as a photographer. But really, it was about me trying to get out there and people seeing me and knowing what I can do. Like years later, someone knowing me as a videographer and me telling them that I could help them start a business. It was, sometimes I get a look of confusion, like, no, you do videos, mate. Why are you talking about business?
That's the thing about people, life, isn't it? People tend to put you in a box based on where they meet you or what they see you doing. So I know for me, for example, people who know me from Tokumba's Kitchen, they say, oh, she's a chef. In fact, earlier in the summer, I was out and I bumped into June Sapon, who recently got, I think she's a something director at BBC.
Okay.
And I reached out to her on Twitter and just, said my congratulations and how proud, I was of her because, I remember June Sapong from back in the day, as a Tottenham girl as well, seeing her on E4, so to see her having gone through her career and now owning her top slot at BBC. So I bumped into her at Somerset House and she was like, yeah, you're that chef, isn't it? And everything in me was just like, no, because I'm like, I am not just a chef, but obviously because of what she sees on my social media, in her mind, oh, you are a chef. So I totally understand what you mean about when people kind of put you into that box.
Yeah. And the thing is, I was okay with it because when they saw me, they saw the brand Socios Media.
Yeah.
So the question was, okay, what else does Socios Media do? So it was like, okay, do web design and all kind of stuff. But how I transitioned out of that was every time I got a new client, video, photography, website especially, and branding, I would do a compulsory consultation. And that consultation was about their business and how they represent themselves and how they got clients and everything around marketing. And that was quite valuable to them. It was valuable to me, so I can get to know what your company's like or what you're trying to achieve. Then we can make the visuals accordingly. And for them, it was sometimes people discovered stuff that they didn't already know or they hadn't thought about. And for me, that was like an aha moment. I was like, okay, do you know, actually, I like talking.
Really? You would not have guessed.
I love sitting down and having conversations.
Really?
I seem to be really good at it.
Don't know about that.
And I give and I give advice whether they want it or not. And that's what consultants do. So I thought, I'm going to do that more regularly. Then I can up my prices because I'm doing this thing that's really valuable. And that was the real transition. So I still do video, I still do photography, but before we do anything, I need to sit down with someone and say, actually, what are you trying to achieve? And so many people have said, you know what, the way you've done your video, I've had videographers before, the way you've done it is so different. You've just gotten it right. When we've done logo projects, they're like, how on earth can you come back with 3 concepts and I can't choose between 3 of them because you've got it, you've hit the nail on the head? And I'm like, because I'm a genius.
Do you know what? I'm going to let you have that one.
Thank you. But the thing is, it's the type of questions that you ask. And a lot of people who work in sort of the creative arts or that side of business might not ask these questions. And I realized quite earlier on that when I'm doing a video or photography or website or whatever I'm doing, I'm helping someone solve a business problem. And that problem is probably getting more customers. So how am I going to help you get more customers? So it wasn't necessarily easy, because for some of the weddings that I had filmed and stuff like that, people still saw me as a videographer and a photographer. So sometimes I still get calls and I'm just like, hey, yeah, my cousin's getting married. I'm like, oh, I'll just put you in touch with my friend over here who specializes in weddings.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that kind of really struck me from the story that you've just shared is you are quite resourceful. So thinking to do a SWOT analysis on yourself is not something a lot of people do. I myself have done that several times, and it is so beneficial because you kind of get to see, okay, these are the things that I'm good at, and then from that you can kind of think about what services you can offer or what kind of business you can venture into. Another thing that really kind of like emerged from what you're saying is you have kind of like you operating on both sides of your brains. So you're very creative in terms of you can do videos, you can do graphics, you can do visuals, but then you're also very logical because you can actually help people think beyond what their business is about and actually helping them to uncover different aspects of their business model that they might not even have considered for themselves. And that's actually a very rare thing. So
Get it out.
yeah, so that was a compliment. I'm really, yeah, you just like, and you know, it's just come from working with you over the last couple of months, you know, you do come across as somebody who, when it's time to be creative, you know, you do, you know, I remember the first photos that you shared from the London African Food Week, and I've worked with several photographers over the last kind of 4 years, and those pictures were one of my favorites to have come back. It was literally like, wow, these pictures are amazing. They really captured the essence of what we're trying to do. I'm still waiting for the video, so I can't really comment on your video skills.
Wow. Okay. Keep recommending me though.
Yes, I mean, the great thing was, I think for me, what was even great was shortly after the food week, I was able to recommend you for an amazing project that you got to work on. Do you want to talk a little bit about that project?
Yeah, sure. I mean, but the thing is with the London African Food Week, something that I admired about you was that you knew what you wanted. And you knew so that was easy. So if I'm asking you a question, I don't have to help you figure it out.
Yeah.
It was just like, actually, you've done some thought or a lot of thinking about what you need to be captured. It wasn't me that took the pictures. It was my brother-in-law. I took him on as an intern. And that was 3 months after him taking pictures, right? So maximum respect to him for wanting to being so open to all of that. And
but also it's just like, again, it kind of shows about the kind of entrepreneur you are and the kind of person that you are, because not only are you able to, you're very skillful at what you do, but you're also able to impact that knowledge and teach other people how to do what you do and actually even do it better.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of ways he is better, which is great.
Yeah,
you know, if you teach your students, should become the master, right? Yeah. So with London African Food Week, I met an amazing creative director called Nene.
Nene is my favorite person in the world.
Phenomenal.
She really is.
And it was the last day, I think, on we were at Facebook, and she was like, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow?" And I'm just like, what's going on? And someone had let the team down or whatever happened. I don't know what happened. And she's like, can you go to Bristol to be a part of this project? I'm like, Bristol? It's like, it's late. And I'm sorry that person has let you down. But you know, when you look in someone's face and they've really been let down, and it's not like they're just last minute and they've messed up. They've really been, you can tell. Yeah. And I said, I'll see what I can do. And that project was called Project Embrace, which is all about embracing your natural hair in the workplace and all that kind of stuff, which is a really important message. And I was so proud to be a part of that. And to have driven to Bristol after a long week when I was so tired. And the thing is, I didn't want to go. And I was more on the side of no. And I said, if Charles, my brother-in-law, can come along and take photos, then it's a yes. And then she was like, well, actually, we need a photographer as well, because this team, I don't know what was going on with them. It wasn't going to work out. So I met the founder of Project Embrace, Lekia, and it was an amazing project to be a part of. So many people embracing. Can we talk about that?
Let's talk about it. Let's go on record and actually talk about it.
Time for me to have a rant. It's ridiculous that people feel inferior because they are different. And I think that was part of the thing that made me not want to work in corporate. I don't need to explain to anyone why my hair is wavy. Black people have been in this country for like 60, 70 years.
Longer than that, actually.
Longer than that. And I'm getting these ridiculous questions. Okay, fine. If you don't know, you don't know. But it was kind of, there was, I don't know, when I work in corporate sector, I was like, I don't like this. And actually, if I can create my own thing where people can be comfortable, that would be great. So being a part of Project Embrace was fantastic, and I'd support that movement because actually Project Embrace goes way beyond just embracing your natural hair. It's like so much more. And to know that, do you know when you do something and you're part of this project and then you see it on TV and you see it on billboards and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so rewarding.
Yeah. And it kind of ties back to what drives you, that thing about wanting to be involved in interesting projects. And I think one of the things that I've learned as an entrepreneur is, similar to you, in the first couple of years of doing my business, I was giving things away for free. Like I was literally, making my pies and going to people and just giving them for free, just because I wanted to get feedback and I wanted to potentially, brand awareness, like let people know that, hey, I'm here and this is what I do. And I'm now at a stage in my business where people come to me and I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. So the business that I was craving for 4 years ago, I'm now like, no, I need a little bit more, because one of the things about growing a business is your business needs to actually go from just surviving. So after that first year of, you've got freedom, but you don't actually have the money to chase the things that you want to do. You then want to build your business to a point where you are thriving and you have the freedom, but then you also have the income that you can actually use to generate new things, new opportunities for yourself. And, the fact that you got to work out on an amazing project like the London African Food Week, which, even though it was the first year, there were so many things that we achieved that for me, even as we're planning for next year, it's even more exciting, because we knew that, like, I think for me, it was like you said, I knew what I wanted to achieve with the Food Week, but bringing the team together, bringing you on board, bringing people like Lusimba, Ida, and, Krishna from Oluolu, and all of us coming together to actually expand that vision. Now that we're working on next year and things are coming to shape, and, we're having partnerships that I could not even have imagined a year ago, it just makes me think about, because what I was doing was not about me. It was about the community. It was about, putting the African food experience presence on the map and having that thing being documented. And that is what allowed an opportunity like Project Embrace to come along for you, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I'm intentional with who I work with. And don't get me wrong, even when I wasn't making much money, I was still intentional, because, again, the freedom and me being at peace and not being stressed is very important to me.
Definitely.
So I had this conversation with someone I was consulting the other day, right? And they realized in this consultation, because we were talking about the money side of how much you make and all that kind of stuff, they realized that their expenses are so high to combat the fact that they don't like what they're doing. So you leave your job and you'll buy something to make yourself feel good. But it's like synthetic happiness. Because
ooh, look at you, synthetic happiness.
I'm on a flow.
I'm impressed. I can get out of you, obviously.
Yes, sometimes. But the thing is, it's like that lasts maybe a day or two until the new jumper or jewelry or whatever wears off. The novelty of having this thing new, it goes away. And then you have to buy something else. And then you go on holiday. So, when you have like a 1 week holiday, 2 days before your holiday, you're preparing for your holiday. So you're kind of stressed out. And then when you get on holiday, it kind of takes you 2 days to get over all of that. And so what's that? 2 days? Then maybe you only really have 3 or 4 days of holiday, because 2 days before you end of holiday, you're thinking about going back to work and how much you wish you could stay a little bit longer. So we're having that conversation, and I was like, you know what? You need to get to a place where you feel free and you're actually happy because you're enjoying what you're doing. And for me, being able to do that and say that was so fulfilling. Like I remember having a conversation with some of my friends from uni, really good jobs, mortgaging a Mercedes. And I was just like, do you know what? This guy's doing so much. Like, we went to the same uni, we got the same grades. Like, what am I doing? We caught up one day and he goes, you know what, Alex, I'm so envious of you because you're always happy and you're always at peace. And I'm just like, I'm looking at him because he's got all this material stuff, but he's not happy with it. And he says, I'm stuck paying off my debt of my house and whatever else.
Is always green on the other side.
You know? And I was like, what are you talking about, man? You're living in comfort. I'm still at home with my mum.
Are you, Alex?
No. This is before I was married. And
I was gonna say at your big age.
Do you know there's some cultures that when they're married they stay with
that culture.
Not in that culture. But he and I took that as such a compliment. Yeah. And I thought actually that made me realize that I'm on the right path because that was my goal. That was my goal, to be free and to do whatever I want when I want. The next step now is just to have the income so I can do more of what I want.
Okay, and that kind of brings us nicely to something that a lot of people don't talk about, but I think as entrepreneurs is something that is very crucial for us to talk about. Money. So you started, you became a full-time entrepreneur in 2013, January 2013. This is now almost December 2019. So that's 6 years.
Well, no, it was more around March or April 2013.
So about almost 6 years.
Yeah.
Almost 6 years of being and in that time, you've only worked for yourself. You've not worked for anybody else.
I mean, the clients. I work for the clients. Yeah.
Yeah, but you obviously don't. You work for the client, but essentially you are running your own business.
Yes.
So you've done things on your terms, and in that time you've gotten married, had 2 kids, and you are thriving. Would you say? But yeah, I guess I want to know is what is the money that you're making, and if you can be specific, that would be really great. Because I think when I think about where I am now in my journey as an entrepreneur, and I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and oh my God, I was like making so many notes about thinking about like, you know, the money that I'm trying to make from my business, but also the income that I need personally. So if you kind of talk us through that journey, what was your first couple of years, 6 years into your business, and how your business have evolved? What is the money that you're trying to make, and what is the next thing for you? Okay,
so 2013, 14, I wasn't. Do you know? I don't even think I was that serious about business. I wasn't that serious about money. I just wanted to do all the things that I enjoyed. So I did a lot of video, a lot of photography. I wasn't making that much money. I was charging £400 for websites. And then I had these clients that were like, they wanted a lot of stuff for £400. And for me, it was just like, okay, do you know, I'm helping them. Like my name means helper of men. And I really enjoyed it. If I'm not doing that,
There's something about the names that people are given and how later on in life they actually embody that name, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know what my mom said to me? You know what, Alex? People can take advantage of you and you're helping them. And it's when they dig out your eye is when you realize that maybe you shouldn't be given that much time to that person. And I said to her, it's your fault. Because you gave me this name. And I'm living up to it.
Do you think she knew the meaning of the name when she gave it to you?
They did. My parents did. They did.
So they were very intentional as well.
Yeah. So, and I do that a lot. And my mum, if you meet my mum, she'll tell you when I was in school, they would give us $20 or how much it was if we went to sports day or something. My brother would go to the park to sports day and he would go with $20, and he'll come back with maybe $10, maybe $20. How he did that, I don't know. I would come back with nothing. And they would ask me, what did you spend your money on? I'm like, oh, my friend wanted a drink and he didn't have no money. And I'm just like, everyone has to have a good time. Yeah. Right? So I was just like, let's go. And I think my friends did the same thing as well. So we had a great time, do you know? But yeah, so for me, it's been about helping people. Yeah. So I've not spoken about this publicly. and I'm a little bit cautious to do it, but anyway, is I decided around 2014 or 2015, 1 year into marriage, that I'm only going to work with people from the African Caribbean community.
Why was that important to you?
I wanted to find out why we weren't doing as good as we should be. And a survey wasn't going to cut it. I had to be like in there. I had to understand what was going on mentally and all that kind of stuff. So since 2015, doing a lot of videos, and there's lots of issues that another time, next podcast. So I decided that I'm gonna do that. Part of that was I saw an article in the Voice newspaper that said billions of pounds leave the black community and go elsewhere, and I was like, "Ooh, if I can get 1% of that, I'll be all right." But the thing is, I realized, and working with different cultures as well. Don't get me wrong, I work with different cultures, and I realized that I needed to be selective in the type of clients that I work with. So I had this criteria. I had 3 criterias. One of those, if I'm going to work with you, you have to be full-time in business.
Okay.
Because I was working with a lot of people who wanted to start businesses, but they had full-time jobs. They didn't, or they weren't sure about their ideas and all that kind of stuff. And they were living in a mindset of comfort.
Yeah.
So that was my criteria, that actually if I'm going to do your website, you've got a website maybe already, or you're thinking of doing it, but you want to go to the next level, which means that you'll naturally want to spend more. So that was one of the things. And also I realized that my life got better by deciding who I could work with or who I should work with. So I still wasn't making that much money, because how
much money would you say you made in that first year? Because
my first year, oh my goodness,
the first 2-3 years.
The first 2 years, I don't think I did more than 10,000 a year.
Wow.
So the first year, 2 years,
now I see why you were living at home.
I was at home with my mum. And to be honest, if I wasn't at home, that number would be different, because I had to look after myself. But I was at home, comfort of my house, which is why I was able to and my mum didn't force me to pay rent. It was just like, okay, you go figure stuff out.
Yeah.
She let me figure stuff out, and I'm so grateful for that. I got married. I said, babe, this is what I'm going to do. What do you think? She goes, Alex, one thing I've known. So she says that I've got this thing called the Nevis blessing, where things just magically and miraculously work out for me. She goes, if you're going to do that, I know that one day it's going to pay off. I'm going to support you 100%.
Is she also from Nevis?
No, she's from an even smaller island. No, her dad's from a small island, and her mum's grandparents are Jamaican. Grenada.
Where did you meet her?
Grenada doesn't carry Grenada. We met at church.
Okay, so in the first 2 years, you made £10,000. What would you say you made in the last financial year? Because the reason I'm trying to really dig down into the money thing is I want, like I said, we don't talk enough about money.
Okay.
We don't talk enough about what money, in terms of what money we need, what money we're spending, and how we're spending that money. And in terms of being an entrepreneur, for me personally, and I think this is also the same for you, one of the reasons why I want to be an entrepreneur is not just for the freedom, but to actually create wealth. And to create wealth and a legacy that I can leave behind for my child.
Okay, yeah.
So since in the last couple of years, I've been, again, like you, very intentionally thinking about how much money do I need to make? What's the money that will make me say yes? What's the money that will make me jump out of my bed and be like, oh, hell yes? And what's the money that's like, oh my God, I didn't think this was possible, but now this is what I'm making.
Yeah. So the last 2 years, turned over around 20,000.
Okay.
What number of that was profit? I don't even want to talk about that, because it wasn't high enough, honestly. But the thing is, as well, again, being intentional. So part of what I do is, when I was 24, 23, I was very fortunate to know some people who could put me in contact with people who needed my services. And I knew people who needed my video production services. So if I wanted to get into the industry, that would be possible. I was a director of a charity at the age of 21 that ran a radio station. So there's some opportunities that I had, but there are people who are coming out of university now that don't have experience, and they might be good at what they do. So the past 2 years, I've been helping people to get into the industry.
Yeah, okay.
So someone, for example, I've taken on interns, but I've taken them on as freelancers where they invoice me and they get paid.
Yeah.
So why I was saying that profit is not high enough is because of that. So I've been paying people. Like
Okay.
last year, 2 years ago, I think it was, I said to my wife, I'm like, do you know what, babe? I'm paying these people so much money, which is why the cost and expenses are so high. And like, we're not suffering, we're doing okay, and I'm living out my purpose.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I could cut back on sort of helping these people, then, you know, our life could start to be a little bit different. And she said to me, Alex, you're helping the economy, you're providing jobs for people, and you're helping people to get forward. This whole community thing. And you can tell that's more important to me. But it's only sort of now where all of that is picking up and all of that momentum is taking me to a different place. So financial freedom, that's maybe a few years away. But the past 2 years, around 20,000 a year is the turnover.
Okay. Wow. First of all, your wife sounds like a very, very understanding woman.
Oh, she's amazing.
In fact, that was all I was thinking of the old food Vic. I was literally like, if this woman meets me, she's going to be like, you're the one that kept my husband from me. But yeah, no, she sounds amazing. So we've kind of talked a lot about what you've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of talk us through what you're doing now? So is your business still social media? Or has it evolved? Are you starting something else? You also talked about doing consultation. What does that look like? So if people wanted to get your services, what would they be getting from you?
Okay. So yes, so social media has expanded. So out of the video and out of the web design came the consultation. Also out of the web design came a domain registration and hosting company.
Okay.
That's called techrec.com. And that's been really fascinating for me because...
Fascinating in what sense?
So one morning, I was playing with my daughter on a Sunday morning. We're just messing about and I heard my phone go ping, like a few minutes later, ping. And that was basically me getting a transaction come through on Stripe. But I didn't look at it until after we finished like playing and stuff. I was just like, I just got paid. Well, the company got paid to do something that we did 2 years ago. So, you know, when you buy a domain name, it's registered again next year.
Okay.
And it's all automated.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to speak to these people.
Sure.
And I was just like, do you know what? I need to do more of this. Because that's where the real time freedom comes, where you can do the work once and get paid repeatedly over and over again, which is the mark of a true entrepreneur, to be honest. So that's one thing. So the social media, which is the video photography, we're still doing that in some ways, but all of this, website branding, photography, visuals, and even the domain and hosting services, all has been swallowed up by a new brand called Launch 7. Okay. It's about 2 years old. And that is really around helping people to start businesses. So the consultation is the first thing we do. We look at where the entrepreneur, this person is in their life. Do they need to do a SWOT analysis? Do they know how much they are going to cost the company in terms of their salary? We look at what the idea is, what you're trying to achieve, where you want to go with the business, and who do you need around you. And these are all important things to do before you start. So we solely focus on the startup side of things. We're not really looking at growing at the moment. Because I've realized, and part of this came from me working with a lot of people from our community, is when you sit down with someone and you ask them the question and they don't know, and then you kind of see, okay, that's probably why you're having this problem. If you figure this out, then things might be a little bit different. So that's where it's going. But all of this stuff, all of the stuff that I've done in the past, all of the video, that's all marketing activities, right? So all that comes in. Once you've done the consultation, we go through your brand. We help you develop a brand. We might help you doing a either advise you on what your website should look like or do it for you. And we help you with your marketing. So again, it's about not having this amazing business plan, but doing something that can get you 2 or 3 clients through the door quickly as possible. And that's you testing the concept. Some people call it an MVP, but in the simple terms, is you just want to know if it's going to work.
If your business is viable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to like what you were saying about the community, the Black community, one of the things that I've been noticing is there seems to be even more of an emerging trend of, people wanting to become entrepreneurs and, people wanting to just become a CEO. And I sometimes feel like people don't actually know what being an entrepreneur is, and that before you, as an entrepreneur, not only are you CEO, but you're also everything in between. You're the cleaner, you're, jack of all trades. And what are some of the lessons that you've kind of observed from making that decision, intentional decision to work only with the community and, going through doing consultations with, prospective entrepreneurs? What are some of the lessons that you've learned or some of the things that you've observed about our community and how we approach entrepreneurship?
That's a big one. I think so almost everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. And I think now why there's a trend is, especially with the way people are still treated. So for example, the Windrush generation, or the second generation Windrush generation, we know what happened a few months ago. Stuff like that. I think stuff like that, people are thinking, okay, so I'm working with these people. They don't seem to like me very much for whatever reason. I'm not even going to get into that, but maybe I should just do something by myself. Actually, I'm being paid X amount in my job, and there's a guy who doesn't look like me that gets paid more. And maybe I do more, or maybe I'm more skilled, or whatever. And I think people are sort of just seeing, well, actually, I might as well just do it for myself. Why be around people that don't like me? So there's this exodus almost of people moving outside of England, outside of London, outside of the UK to go somewhere else. Yes, Brexit and all that kind of stuff might have something to do with it, but I think that's part of the trend. But also there's the need to have more revenue coming through your homes. Things are a little bit more expensive, and if these people from our community are still marginalized and still not given a fair opportunity, what other choice do you have?
Okay, so what are some of the business ideas that you've kind of consulted on that you think, yes, this is a genius idea? What are some of do you have other kind of like business ideas that you yourself want to pursue? Because obviously initially when you started based on what your skill set was at the time. And this is now almost 8 years into your journey. So you've obviously grown, you've obtained more skills, and you've had more experiences. So what are some of the avenues that you might want to pursue in the next few years?
Yeah, so I've worked with quite a few different types, products, fragrance company, marketing, people doing marketing and freelance. What else? What's different? Working with someone at the moment who's into fashion. I can't say too much because it's a really good idea. And I'm going to be secretive about it just because.
Wow, Alex! Wow, we were doing so good.
I didn't sign an NDA, but yeah. So there's lots of stuff. The second part to your question was
for yourself.
For myself.
Yeah.
Other ideas. I mean, I've had so many ideas. I've got a folder.
Isn't that the hallmark of an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
I mean, the other day I actually discovered a diary that I had in, I think, 2010. And I think I've written about, at that time, 30 possible business ideas that I was like, yeah, I think I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, wow. Because I'd actually forgotten most of those things.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things that I wrote at the time were related to the career that I had back then, which was social work.
Okay.
And now I'm like, oh, that was actually a really good business idea.
Yeah.
I wonder if I can still like go back and do it.
Yeah. Do you know, I went through this phase where I was searching for problems to solve. Like if you have a business idea and it doesn't solve a problem for anyone, consider whether you should do it or not. Yeah. But I went to this phase and I just kept seeing all these problems that can be solved. Newspapers, it'd be like, oh, that's what's happening. Oh, I wonder if I can fix this. Can I tell you about one?
Go on.
It's funny. So Venezuela, a few years ago, they had in the beginnings of what's going on now, Economy was down. There wasn't a lot of jobs and all this kind of stuff. So I read this article. I think it was in the Times or somewhere. And there was this problem
in Venezuela.
So there was and this is how I knew that I was an entrepreneur. Like, if I wasn't sure before, this is the thing that sealed the deal. So they had a problem. They had a shortage of condoms.
Was not expected now. Wait, isn't Venezuela also a Catholic country?
I don't know.
Okay, all right, go on.
I don't remember anything else from the article apart from that there was a shortage in condoms. So
you were gonna start a condom business.
Supply was low and demand was high. They were getting these condoms from America by this company called Trojan or something.
Yeah,
and it was like $15.
Wow.
$15
for
one.
Damn.
So I was like, whoa, how many people are in Venezuela? How many people are young? How many people? Because what happened is people still wanted to do what they wanted to do, but they didn't want to have children, because if they have children, they can't look after them because the economy is down. It's just like, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? We need condoms. $15. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to supply condoms to Venezuela.
wait. So talk me through how Alexander was going to, from London, go to Venezuela.
Okay, are you ready?
I don't think I'm ever going to be ready.
I'm on the train. And I had coffee as well. And I had coffee after 5 o'clock. So that's never a good idea for me. I'm just like, oh, I'm wired. So I put the newspaper down, open up my notes on my phone. I'm making notes. Okay, cool, condoms. This how much we can sell it for. Then I ask myself some questions. How am I going to get it there? Actually, where am I going to get them from? How much does it cost? So on the way home, I stopped off, went into Boots just to see how much.
So you literally was doing
market research, looking to see how much it might cost.
Serious entrepreneur.
If I was supposed to make a partnership with someone, maybe I can get it cheaper, but I wasn't there yet.
All of this in like the space of an evening,
like 2 hours. So I got home and I said, hey, I text my brother. I'm like, I said to my wife, I've got this amazing idea. Like, I know it's going to work. She's like, okay, babe. She was tired as well.
She's probably tired of your amazing ideas by now.
She's like, all right then. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. She's like, that sounds like it might work. How are you going to get it there?
Oh my God, she encourages
me so much.
People, wow.
So she's like, how is that going to work? So she's asking me this question. I'm like, okay. And I've got the answers. She's like, okay. The thing is with my wife, she'd ask me 3 or 4 questions. Mm-hmm. And if I answer them really well and they're well thought out, she'd be like, that sounds good.
That's why you were planning on the train, because you knew what was coming.
No, we were newlyweds, so I didn't realize the depth that I didn't know that was what gonna happen when I got home. I thought she was gonna be like, oh yeah, let's talk this through. So I text my brother. I'm like, cool.
You were serious about this?
Yeah, I text my brother. He's a project manager. I'm like, cool, we're gonna do this. He's like, hey, it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I don't know why he was entertaining me, to be honest, because he wasn't that great of a great idea. So he's like, how are you gonna get them out there? I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And it's like. It's like, and when you get them out there, who's going to sell them? It's like, oh my goodness, I know someone from Venezuela.
Of course you do.
So I know someone from Venezuela, Laurietta, I think her name was. So I'm going to message her. She's going to help me do the website in Spanish, because that's the language that they speak. Also, she will tell me where to send them to. Maybe she's got a cousin. We can hook this up. The next thing was, how are you going to get them there? And I was just like, suitcase. Put them in a suitcase. And we'll take a trip over there, or she will take a trip over there.
This woman to go to.
She might want to go home and see her family.
But and then when she full of condoms.
Every question was answered. When she gets to the airport and the customs says, "Why do you have so many condoms?" She's like, "I know that there's a problem here, and I just want to help my family not have any children that they might not be prepared to have."
Please don't ever repeat this story in public. Please, for the love of God. Otherwise, I'll deny you.
But I was like, do you know what? Actually, that's not legal, because you need to pay traders. So I looked up how much it's going to cost to ship, and I was like, do you know what? This is not really going to work out.
Now you understand why each one Trojan was costing $15.
Yes. And I was just like, okay, now I get it. But I had the domain ready to be purchased already. I was ready. Honestly, I was ready.
Wow.
And
I am both impressed and also just really worried right now.
But the thing is that if you find a problem to solve, the rest is so easy. You just have to ask a few questions, like who wants it, and how am I going to get it to them? And for me, that I realized actually I've got a really, really good skill of figuring this stuff out. And because of my web design and my branding, it meant that I can have something up and ready really, really quickly.
Yeah. One of the things that really strikes me about you. So I was on a podcast last year, and one of the first questions she asked her guest is, "When did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?" And I kind of struggled at the time. I mean, this was like January last year, 2018, and at the time I actually struggled with the question because I didn't feel like I had fallen in love with entrepreneurship. In fact, I'm writing a book, and one of the first title that I came up with for my book was The Accidental Entrepreneur, because I feel like that's essentially what I am. I was not the child that grew up knowing I wanted to be a business person. In fact, I found an essay that I wrote when I was 15 where I said I wanted to be a social worker, I wanted to live in America, and I basically, the life that I had was the life that I wrote for myself when I was 15. And by the virtue of becoming an entrepreneur, and even now, it's calling myself an entrepreneur feels a lot more easy for me now than it did a couple of years ago. But what strikes me about you is you are so completely in love with not just the concept of being an entrepreneur, but actually behaving and acting like an entrepreneur, and even almost to the point where you think everybody should be an entrepreneur. And why do you, I mean, I guess for me, one of the things that I struggle with is in this old narratives about entrepreneurship, and, the advice is always do what you love. And in my mind, I think about my story and I think about your story. You didn't necessarily did what you love when you started off. You did what was practical. You did what you were really good at. And from that, you then discovered more things that you love. So would you say that people should go for what they love or go for what they're skilled at?
A bit of both, actually. So I love talking to people. I love helping people. Like naturally, I love doing that. But it's not just, don't focus on what you love, because you might love playing football or you might love playing tennis, but you're not that good at it.
Yeah.
Or you might just love football, but what you're really good at is talking. So if you marry those two, if you marry what you're good at and what you're good at plus what you love, like magic can happen. Miracles can happen. Do you know? But it's true though, because I was good at video, I was good at photography, but I love helping people. Right? So for me to find people that I can help and actually really want to help their business, and I'm in love with the process of starting and all that kind of stuff. So me loving the startup, me being a dreamer and me wanting to help people, but also here is what I'm going to use to amplify what I'm good at. And I think that's what some people miss. So quite often we hear not everyone's an entrepreneur. Yes, it's true, right? But you can still be a part of something. And you can still use your skills to be a part of something amazing. For example, me doing websites doesn't make me an entrepreneur. It makes me a freelancer that does websites. Do you know? Actually, there's a guy called Vusi Tumbakweyu from South Africa. Amazing. You guys should just look him up. Like, he's amazing. Gives really good advice. And he has this quadrant, and it talks about being self-employed, being employed, self-employed, business owner, and entrepreneur. And he says you have to go through each of these before you're an entrepreneur. He says some people that own businesses, as in you've registered your company, you're self-employed, or you're just working for your company. And you're a business owner, you've got a business that's running, maybe you have a team, or even if you don't, you have some sort of system that's been run. It's like you're a true entrepreneur when you can go on holiday for 3-6 months and that business is running by itself. And in that space of 3-6 months, maybe you can start another business. And then once you've done that, that's running by itself. So for me, I think I'm entrepreneurial, but I don't think I'm an entrepreneur yet. Only because all of these brands come under one roof.
I hope you enjoyed listening to the first part of my conversation with Alex, and Alex's powerful story of making a decision to become an entrepreneur at the age of 11. The journey that he has taken and continues to take to fully actualize his dream. Please tune in next time for the concluding part of my conversation with Alex. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the Tokunbo Chronicles. Please follow at the Tokunbo Chronicles on Instagram and share this podcast with a friend.